directly. I'm untouchable, uncrushable. Running in a 600, running in a 600. Untouchable, uncrushable. Running in a 600, running in a 600.
Welcome to another edition of Punch to the Face Radio. I am your host, Brandon Stubbs. Appreciate you joining me here this week. On this week's show, we will have guests from Titan FC 37, Steven Siler and Andre Harrison. They'll be fighting each other here on UFC Fight Pass for a championship belt. Also, I'll have my take on Ronda Rousey wanting to kill herself and the amazing shit show that was Bellator 149. But this week we'll start off here in regards to Manny Pacquiao. Yes. Manny Pacquiao was thought to be such a great guy. Such an awesome ambassador to boxing, but a lot of his true colors have been coming out, and well, a lot of us in boxing have known it. It just seems like now it's getting mainstream coverage. See, this week Manny decided to do an interview with Filipino News while he's over in the Philippines training for his upcoming bout against Tim Bradley here in April. And he was, making comments and asking questions in regards to same-sex marriage, and then, Manny made the following comment. Have you seen any animal having male-to-male or female-to-female relations? If you have male-to-male or female-to-female relations, then those people are worse than animals. So pretty much he's saying that gay people are worse than animals. Now, needless to say, once this kind of got buzzing around the country, especially here in the States, that did not go over so well. Not only did Manny have to make a quick apology via social media and Instagram, but he also lost his contract deal with Nike. Now, Manny had been endorsed by Nike for over 8 years. You always see the logos on the shorts. When he fought in Vegas, he would always have a lot of product there at the giant Nike store inside of Caesar's Palace that made a lot of money, a lot of revenue. But now that is no more. That 8-year relationship with Nike is now done as Manny heads into his final fight against Timothy Bradley. Now, this is kind of a double-edged sword. Actually, it's not. Really, this is about right. That's probably the best way of saying it. You see, this is Manny Pacquiao's quote-unquote final fight. He plans on retiring and then fully being over in the Philippines and doing things in Congress over there. But not only is this his final fight and people should be hyped about it, but fans really don't care given the fact that we've already seen 2 fights with Timothy Bradley and they were neither that great. So a fight that already a lot of boxing fans and mainstream media weren't caring about is now getting press. But it's getting negative press because of comments Manny Pacquiao's made. So, this puts Tim Bradley in kind of a weird spot for the most part. I mean, he's going to get asked questions about this that it really has nothing to do with him. All because his opponent decides he wants to say something stupid while being interviewed over in the Philippines. So a fight that already no one cared about is now even getting even more negative press. Go figure. So Manny Pacquiao, is his last fight. He's made these kind of comments for years, but now it's just now becoming more of a big deal because, he's already fought Mayweather. So now, people can throw him under the fire like they have other fighters. But now that he's fought Mayweather, now he's going to be looked upon as being a villain after these comments. Like I said, this isn't the first time. So, kids, do your research. It's funny that all of a sudden now that these comments are a big deal when Manny has felt this way for years and make numerous comments like this in the past. So, the first dumbass of the week here on Punch to the Face Radio in its reincarnation goes to Manny Pacquiao. So Manny Pacquiao, you're a real loser for making comments like this. You have to understand, if those are your personal beliefs, I understand that, but it comes a certain time and place where you just kind of keep those comments to yourself, especially when you're about to fight and embark on your last fight of your career, your last payday. Don't do anything to jeopardize that by saying negative things in the press, alienating one type of people or type of culture. He wouldn't want somebody to say something in regards to Filipino people being lower than animals, so don't make that comment about gay people. Gay people are boxing fans and spend money just like everyone else. And he probably had a lot of homosexual fans of him that right now are really turned off by his comments. So, real dumb move on Manny Pacquiao's part. Top Rank is going to be trying to do the best cleanup job they can. They're probably going to try to keep him out of the press here in the coming weeks. And it's going to be real interesting to see how them and HBO handle this as we head into the home stretch of promotion over the coming weeks for his fight in April against Timothy Bradley. So, Dumbass of the week goes to Manny Pacquiao. Go figure. But I have a feeling this won't be the last time you hear the loser horn on the show. Maybe not even this week. Bellator 149 went down here this past Friday, and Lord have mercy. I don't even really know where to start with Bellator 149. Now, we all kind of knew that it was going to be somewhat of a shit show. We knew that. We had that understanding going into the fight. You had two men who were, one being 49, one being 52 in your main event. You had two guys known who gained their popularity from being street fighters in backyards of Miami. Those two guys, these four fighters, and these two fights were your main events of the night down there in Houston. Now, it just was bad. It was bad all the way around. It was 3 hours of us literally like, what are we watching? Now, the fight card in itself was not great. Not great at all, especially the main card. Now, we had 5 fights on the main card, which none were really all that exciting. Daniel Pineda and Emmanuel Sanchez opened up the card on Spike TV. Very sluggish fight. It was just not all that entertaining. Daniel, who took the fight on somewhat of a little bit of a short notice, seemed to gas. It was a catchweight bout. The guys didn't even both make weight, so it being a catchweight bout, that was not entertaining. So that brought the energy down to start the fight card. Then you had a groin shot fight between Emmanuel Newton and Linton Vasil. Newton, struck Vasil several times, ended up losing a point, ended up losing the fight via unanimous decision to Vasil, in a very unentertaining fight that really did not much to help either's case in the 205-pound division there within Bellator. So, 2 fights in, we had 6 rounds of action that were just really not entertaining. It just was no good. Really brought down the energy. Now, luckily, midway through, we got a little bit of help. Now, for those who watched the broadcast, maybe the best moment of the night, well, not the best, easily the best moment of the night, was Mike Tyson doing commentary during the Melvin Guillard-Derek Campos fight. Mike Tyson needs to do more commentary on these combat sports events. Here it is, a Hall of Fame boxer who's doing commentating for MMA events. Very strange, but yet still very entertaining. He was hilarious on the mic. And the fight itself was actually pretty entertaining. We had, Derek went forward. Melvin Guillard had his hands down, and his defense, as always, has been a little bit suspect. Ended up getting knocked out in the second round in a very good fashion by Derek Campos. So you got to wonder now with Melvin Guillard. That's 2 fights now for Bellator, 2 losses. I said when he left the World Series of Fighting, and the way he left the World Series of Fighting, after having weight issues with them and just pretty much just walking out on his contract, and World Series of Fighting being tired of him and cutting him loose. He was washed. This was his last chance. He's now lost 2 fights in Bellator. Melvin Guillard is no longer a top 15 fighter for any promotion out there. He may be able to win some fights on some regional cards here and there against, lesser talent. But as far as him being able to fight for any of the major 3 organizations, whether it be UFC, Bellator, or World Series of Fighting, we can tell Melvin Guillard has nothing left to really offer. He may get you a win here and there, but when he actually steps up in competition against legit fighters who've evolved, Melvin Guillard has no chance. And the bad part is he dedicated this fight to late Kevin Randleman, who had passed. He did not do Kevin Randleman well there in that fight, getting floored. It was bad. Very bad performance by Melvin Guillard. But that was to be expected. I was not surprised by that at all. But a big shout out to Derek Campos, who did his thing, picked up a win. Now he's definitely feels himself as being in the mix now at the lightweight division for Bellator. And then we got to our quote-unquote main event fights. Dafari Harris, a.k.a. Dada 5000, against Kevin Ferguson, a.k.a. Kimbo Slice. Now, all of us who watched this fight, all of us, had the same feeling when the bell started. There's no way this is going past the first round. There's no way this goes past a couple of minutes. We suffered through 2 full rounds and part of a third round in what was absolutely a horrible display of mixed martial arts. we had two men who seemed to do no cardio whatsoever be completely gassed in the first round, within minutes of the first round. Now, I understand that, the adrenaline might have been up, had an adrenaline dump, and will gas out, but they never recovered. Kimbo Slice was able to get takedowns on Dada and keep him down, but the thing is, he did nothing. He literally was laying on top in full mount several times throughout the fight, and referee Big John McCarthy had to pull him off because, well, he was doing nothing. He was inactive. So it was bad. It was really bad, and the punches weren't connecting. The punches that were landing were pitter-pat shots because neither man had any energy, any kind of force behind their punches from them just being flat out exhausted throughout the fight. And it ended in such a weird fashion. Kimbo had landed a couple of punches that were kind of grazing, not heavy at all. And as Dada was trying to stumble away and get away, he just flat out collapsed. He stumbled back really across the cage, stumbled, and boom, crashed the mat. And that was the end. The ref finally called a stop to the bout, thank God, in the third round. Now, what makes this really sad in many ways is the fact of Dada ended up going out of the cage on a stretcher, and then later that night he ended up having subsequently heart failure due to heavy amounts of potassium in his blood, extreme dehydration, and it was also released at that point after the fight that he had lost over 40 pounds while trying to cut down to the weight limit of 265 pounds. You got to kind of wonder if he was that sickly and that dehydrated and what have you. How was this not really caught by the athletic commission down there in Texas prior to the fight? What kind of physical did they do on him to kind of test these levels and see these things during fight week or during when they do their physical before the weight cut and what have you? So for the weigh-in, so I really have to put some of this blame on the Texas Athletic Commission for that, at least on Dada's end, because you could tell he had no business being in there. He lost 40 pounds and damn near lost his life after losing the fight here Friday night. Kimbo, after the fight, was being held up in the ring by two of his cornermen. He said he was exhausted. He was glad it was over. He was hungry. I just don't think this was something we needed to see. I mean, if this was in the backyard of Miami, this would have been huge. But in a Bellator cage, this fight was awful. It was flat out bad. And I hope to never see either one of these gentlemen in an MMA cage again. Much respect to them for going out and trying. They got in there and they gave somewhat of an effort, so I'll give them credit for that. But the fight in itself was a complete and utter joke. And everyone on Twitter thought the same. Fighters thought the same. It just seemed kind of disrespectful to MMA to call that a fight. But what can you do? And then we had our main event of Ken Shamrock versus Royce Gracie. Now, this is their third fight after them fighting over 20 years ago in the inaugural UFC events. Those first events there in the 90s. So these guys are now fighting a third and final time, and I can't stress the final part enough. This was one of those fights again that just didn't make any sense on paper, but it was a train wreck that we wanted to watch, and it ended up being a train wreck of a fight. Ken Shamrock went in for a punch, ended up getting caught in a clinch. Royce Gracie did land a couple of knees. One knee that did hit the cup of Ken Shamrock. Shamrock ended up getting tossed down because he was screaming in pain. Thought the referee saw the groin shot. The ref didn't see it, so he gets thrown to the ground by Royce Gracie. Gracie then pounds him out, and after he gets up, Ken starts screaming at the ref. I got hit. What are you doing? Screaming at Royce, you did this on purpose. Screaming at anyone he could get his hands on or who was in earshot of him once he got up. He felt that he got cheated out of the fight. And to Ken Shamrock's credit, once we saw the replay, it was definitely a clear groin shot. The referee didn't see it, and unfortunately, if the ref doesn't see it, you have to fight on. And to Royce's point, after the fight, when he was interviewed and was asked about the groin shot, he said, I'm from when we fought, we had no rules. That was legal. He's like, what do you want me to do? The ref didn't see it. The ref didn't stop it. I have to keep going, which is what he was supposed to do. So, a very weird ending in the first round to that fight of the main event there at Bellator. But as a whole, it was just a bad event. I understand, Bellator's point because it did what it was supposed to do. We all watched. And that's all Bellator ever wants us to do. They want us to watch. As far as the quality of product they put out there, they are concerned to an extent, but they also want those ratings. That's what Spike TV wants to, and their boss is Viacom, who owns them, and Bellator want. They want those ratings. And that's what they got. Preliminary numbers are looking outstanding for Bellator 149, which is just insane if you think about it, but there's that. So we'll get another fight here. Bellator 150 is here this coming week. We'll recap that here on next week's show. And then Bellator actually will be picking up with some very good fights here soon. You'll have Benson Henderson making his debut in April. We also got announced in May that we're going to get King Mo Lual versus Phil Davis. And since Liam McGeary is injured, Phil Davis will now have to wait on his title shot. So he's going to face King Mo, who he should have fought last year during the light heavyweight tournament the Bellator put on. But Mo ended up hurting himself and couldn't compete in the finals. So now those two are going to face off in May. As well, we're finally going to get a fight that two guys have been calling each other out for, which was kind of strange, in Josh the Punk Thompson versus Michael Chandler. Chandler, who signed a big contract here last week to remain with Bellator, now gets Josh Thompson. Thompson actually had an opportunity to fight Will Brooks, but decided to turn that down to fight Michael Chandler instead. So Will Brooks is the world champion with no one to fight. Literally, no one to fight. No one's willing to step up and fighting. This is a top contender. So he's just kind of sitting back right now, which is kind of strange. And I kind of hope for his credit that at this point, once his Bellator contract is out, he goes over to the UFC, because I think they would actually use him and appreciate him a little bit more, and he wouldn't get walked over by some of the contenders there in the division. But that's neither here nor there. So we got that fight announced as well. So May and April look to be big months for Bellator going forward. And also Rampage Jackson is now back. His contract that was sort of voided but not really and somewhat in dispute got completely tore up, and he's now got a 2-fight deal with Bellator and new terms with the new president, Scott Coker. So he's going to be fighting again for Bellator. We don't know against who and when, but we know it's going to be his next 2 fights will be in Bellator. We also now know that Vanderlei Silva has now been suspended here, retroactive to May of 2014 to till May of 2017. So he's not going to be eligible to fight here until next summer here in the States, after being suspended by the Nevada State Athletic Commission for running out on a test and some other things that he did prior to a fight with the UFC back in 2014. So he's been on the shelf since then, and they've retrodated his suspension. So it's now going to be good until till 2017 in May. But rumor has it he's already got a deal in place to go fight over Japan for Rizin MMA. Now, the thing is with that, Rizin doesn't have to recognize anybody's suspension for anybody, since it's a different country, it's a different sanctioning body. I will say this, more than likely, if Vanderlei Silva does go over and fight in Japan, he's probably got 0 chance of ever fighting in the States again, since he's going to be fighting before his suspension is over with the Nevada State Athletic Commission. I don't think he really cares at this point. I think he's going to fight a couple of fights over there for Rizin and then retire and call it a day. So it looks like it'll more than likely be Vanderlei Silva versus Fedor Emelianenko. I have a feeling here this summer for Rizin, which will be an excellent fight as far as name recognition goes, but Lord knows what kind of fight we could get out of those two. But hey, we know what kind of fight we're going to get out of these two gentlemen. Steven Siler and Andre the Bull Harrison are going to meet at Titan FC 37, and that'll be March 4th on UFC Fight Pass. These two gentlemen are going to be fighting here for the featherweight championship. This is going to be the second defense for Andre Harrison. I had an opportunity to speak with both gentlemen, so here's my interview here with Steven Siler, who's going to be challenging for that belt. Now, Steven is on currently a 5-fight win streak. He did challenge once before for that featherweight championship, losing to Desmond Green, but hey, the second time around, things could be a little bit different. So he talks to me about the second fight around and how this is going to be a different fight for him, and as well as how he's kind of got a win streak and what's been working for him over these last few fights. So here's my interview with Steven Siler of Titan FC. All right, right now I'm joined by Steven Siler, who's going to be a part of Titan FC 37 here, live on UFC Fight Pass. He's going to get his second opportunity here to obtain Titan FC Gold. Steven, how is training camp going leading up here to the big fight?
It's going good, man. I don't think I've felt this good in quite some time. Like, body-wise, weight's coming off quick. just really, I feel like I'm working hard for it, and I know it's going to pay off in the long run.
Well, good deal, man. Like I said, man, this is going to be your second opportunity to get gold here for Titan FC. This time around, you're going to be facing the champion, Andre Harrison, a.k.a. Dre the Bull. Now, with Andre, he kind of has that wrestler mauling style. Is that something that's kind of, I don't want to say annoying to train for or to know that you're going to be going against, but, how's a fighter's mindset when you know that that's really his style of fighting that he has?
It just means I gotta work that much harder. I gotta make sure if he does get me down, or when he does get me down, I just gotta get back up. I know how talented of a wrestler he is, and I need to, despite how good my ground game is and how many submissions, wins I've had, I gotta realize if it's not there, hurry up and get up, and then force him to keep working, make him get tired.
Now, one thing that you've been able to do, you're currently riding a 5-fight win streak. You've got 4 submission wins out of that 5. Your last loss was actually when you fought for the championship previously there at Titan FC. What's been clicking for you here over these last, 5 wins? Because you've been on a tear here over the last year and a half.
Yeah, this is what I've been telling everyone too, man. I'm able to start having fun again because despite what people think about fighters, being rich and making all this money in the UFC or not, we don't. We don't make a lot of money. And so I was stressing out before every fight, whether or not I was going to make my bills. And, I finally, settled down, looked what I could do, and, I realized I should probably just get a part-time job. I started working, part-time just from home. I work, just 4 hours in the morning before I go train. And then, that helps pay the bills. And, now, hold on a second. And now I'm able to make sure, when I fight, I don't got to worry about winning or losing fights. The money's already there, so I could just go ahead and have fun with it. The rest of the business now.
Is that something that, that a lot of fighters, especially young fighters, don't realize, until there may be a couple of fights in, that it doesn't come so quickly and you got to have somewhat of a plan B or a plan while you're still trying to pursue that dream?
I had 9 fights in the UFC, and, I was still sweating out my bills before every fight, hoping they hurry up and call me back and give me another fight. And I went pretty quick, too. So, you think you're getting all this money and the tax season comes, you're giving half of it away, so it's not so fun after all. But, be able to, have extra money on the side, I'm able to take risks in fights where it's like, before I was like, oh, man, if I do this right now, he might take my back and choke me out. Where now it's like, okay, if he does something, then he'll take my back. If he gets me, he gets me, but hopefully I can get out and, advance from there.
Well, absolutely. Well, that's actually good to hear that the fighter actually has a plan B and is working, and that's how they're keeping their head clear. Now, you're still a young man in this game. You actually celebrated a birthday here recently, but, with all of us when we have birthdays, has it kind of crossed your mind how much longer I want to do this and how much longer you want to stay in this wacky world of MMA? Is like you said, it's not all glitz and glamour that a lot of fans think it is.
No, I've always had a plan. At first I didn't take fighting seriously, so I just kind of did it for fun. I thought it would only last like a year or two. And then it just kept on lasting longer and longer, and the better I got and the more I fell in love with it. But realistically, my plan was to hit the 20-year mark of fighting, which would be, April, and when I'm 38 years old. So I wanted to hit the 20-year mark of fighting, or the 100 fight mark. So whatever comes first.
Wow. Okay. Well. Wow. Okay. Well, nothing wrong with that. You want to keep it going. You want to kind of be like the guys who are going to be fighting in Bellator when they're in the 50s. That's crazy. But could you ever see any sort of scenario, like in all honesty, to where you could be late 40s, possibly even in your 50s, if you're cleared from an athletic commission, to where you would still want to fight if you still had that love and that passion?
At this point, no, I don't see me fighting in my 40s and 50s because I'm not even 30 yet, and I know how bad my body feels every day. I can't imagine, 10 years from now how I'm going to feel. But at the same time, I didn't expect to be fighting, when I'm 30, so you never know.
That's crazy. Now, you don't want to think too far ahead, but, if you beat Andre, that's going to give you 6 fights in a row. You're going to have a title attached with your name, You know, at what point are you going to start saying, okay, are you going to start sending the tweets out to the people of the UFC like, hey, look at me. I'm a champion. I've won some fights in a row. I put on good fights for you when I was there. Give me another look. When is that point going to come, or is it one of those things to where you're just going to kind of take it fight by fight and just keep plugging away?
No, man, I'm bugging them already before the fight even happened. For a couple fights now, even before this one, after my last Titan fight, I told Shelby, hey, man, I'm getting it back. I'm ready. I'm more hungry than I've ever been. I've been tearing it up lately. I just finished this guy who was an Ultimate Fighter. I finished him in, a minute? Like, give me my chance, get me back to where I belong. And, he's always just told me, just stay ready. My time's going to come. They're looking at me. And then, 2 more wins after that, including a title belt against one of the top prospects out of the UFC. I think that will definitely do it for me.
So your message to Andre here as we get leading up here to Titan FC 37 here on March 4th.
I'm really looking forward, to Andre. I'm fighting him. It's going to be a fun fight. I've actually got to know him the last few Titan fights. He's been on the same card as me, and we even cut weight together the very first Titan fight I was on. I got to know Andre, got to like him, and it's going to be fun, man. I enjoy fighting people I get along with. It makes it more fun while I'm inside the cage. I'm just ready to scrap and make sure, hopefully he's ready for a war too. Let's try to put on a show and show the UFC that we both can put on a good fight. And, it's going to be my time. I'm going to bring home that belt, but hopefully he's there shortly after I am.
Well, absolutely. We'll give a shout out to the sponsors helping you get ready here for the big fight here on UFC Fight Pass.
I just want to thank, everyone that's been there for me, my family, my friends. Everyone that supports me. I'm not really doing any sponsors. Red Gear hooked me up some gear, for this training camp, and I appreciate it. But really, the only person, that's, been there, that's my gym, Court, Brock, and, Ramsey, and everyone that's been training with me to help me get ready for the fight.
Well, absolutely. And let the fans know where they can keep tabs up with you here as you prepare here for the big fight.
The best place is my Twitter @SteveSiler. That's what I'm, best on, that I pay attention to. Other than that, I'm not really good to the whole social media.
Let's keep it to the pros, because we can see when people get on there who don't know what they're doing, it can get real nasty, real ugly. So I respect that.
Perfect.
Well, absolutely. Well, again, Steven, you're going to be a part of Titan FC 37 Live UFC Fight Pass. March 4th against Andre Harrison, championship on the line. It's going to be a big fight, bunch of title fights. It's going to be a fun fight for the fans. Again, we appreciate you taking up the time, and best of luck here as we lead up to the big bout.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you. Now, as for the man that Steven's going to be fighting, he's going to be fighting Andre the Bull Harrison. Now, Andre's got a lot of buzz floating around about him. Right now, he's undefeated, 11-0. Looked upon as being one of the top prospects in MMA, regardless of whatever division it is. And, I talked to him about, the second title defense and if things are any easier the second go-round, and how he's actually dealing with being looked upon as being one of the next guys up and why he's not in the UFC. So, here's my interview with the champion for Titan FC in the featherweight division, Andre the Bull Harrison. All right, right now I'm joined by Andre the Bull Harrison, who's going to be a part of Titan FC 37 to make his second title defense of his featherweight title, this time against Steven Siler. Dre, man, how you doing right now? How's training camp going?
The training camp is going well. I'm feeling like I'm right where I need to be. Got 2 more sparring sessions left. Everything feels good, though.
And like I said, now this is the second title defense. Now, does it feel like it's a little bit easier now that you're kind of accomplished as a champion? You've gotten that first defense against you. Is a little bit less pressure on you here the second go round?
I don't really look at pressure the same way like that. I don't do it like, all right, I defended it, so this one's gonna be easy. Steven is definitely a tough dude, so I don't necessarily look at it. I kind of like to view myself as always going to get another belt as opposed to defending it. So in my mind, I'm hungry. I'm going in there. I'm trying to get the title, and do what I need to do to get the job done.
Now, I had an opportunity to speak with Steven, and one thing that he had said about you is he actually likes you, oddly enough. Typically, you don't hear your opponents saying they like you and they actually have respect for you. So he's looking forward to it being a good fight. Does that make that dynamic any kind of weirder?
No, it doesn't make it weird. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know if I've had. Maybe when I was an amateur, I had a little malice against 1 or 2 of my opponents, but as a professional, I had nothing against any of my opponents. It's a job. It just needs to get done. And, like Steven said, I like Steven too. We've been on the same card, I think, like 4 times now. And so, in those 4 times, he was a cool dude. Me and him exchanging conversations. And, I've seen his family and everything like that. So he's a cool guy. It's just, at the end of the day, we're both right now seen as the top 2 featherweights in Titan. And, he thinks he's number 1. I believe I'm number 1. So we just got to meet on the 4th to see, who can solidify their opinion.
Yeah, he did say you guys had cut weight, some previous Titan events. I'm assuming this time around you're not going to be cutting weight together, chopping it up before the fight.
I don't know. For whatever reason, we always found ourselves doing it at the same time. So we might, again, it's not like there's malice where now all of a sudden it's like I hate his guts. I could literally, it may sound a little messed up, man, but I could fight anybody at any given time. It doesn't matter who it is. I'm sparring with some of my best, some of my brothers, best friends, and I have no problem hurting anybody. It's just, it's just what we do,
Now, as you said, right now you're looked upon, you are the number 1 guy in the featherweight division there for Titan FC, but you're also getting a lot of buzz throughout MMA over the course of the last year since you've made your debut for Titan. How are you handling this race in stardom? Because it's coming, man. It's starting to roll uphill to where people are really starting to be noticing you. You're on a lot more radars. How are you handling that now?
Actually, the other day I was in Walgreens. I was trying to get some things for the house. And I seen 2 people, and they was like, "Yo, man, that's the dude that fights, man. I know that's the dude that fights. We watched him fight." And it was kind of funny because, it was like in my mind, I just view myself as a regular person, just doing what I love for a living. So I don't look at it as I'm a superstar or becoming a superstar or anything of that nature. I'm just a regular guy, just trying to do what he enjoys doing. It just happens that some people think it's a cool job. That's all.
Well, right on now. You're training right now at Belmore Kickboxing Academy in MMA. I did see a tweet that came out here last week that you and a fellow star, but in the boxing realm, Chris Algieri, actually went out and talked to some kids, man. How important is it to give back to the youth and make sure you talk to the kids and let them know the right pathways to take, whether they be hitting the books or doing something in athletics?
It was great, man, because a few things on that. Like, one, somebody can say something a million times to you, and it doesn't register, it doesn't click. But it takes somebody to say it in a way that, you can relate to, where it makes sense to you, and hopefully, it will change you. And so, I know for me growing up, everybody goes through their hard-headed stage where they don't really want to listen to anybody or, do what they know is right. They want to do what they want to do. And so, if me or Chris or whoever may have came that day and spoke to the kids, if we related the message and got a couple of kids to, actually take heed and believe what we said and change their story around, we're doing something great, I believe that nobody makes it to where they want to be or to where they get to by themselves. Anybody that does anything, they need help along the way. They may not want to admit it, but everybody needs help, and so I appreciate all the help that I was given coming up, and all the help that I'm still receiving to this day from people who are really, really close to me. And, if I can be that help for somebody else, I would love to do that. So hopefully, we got through to some of the kids. I think we did. Some of them stayed after and had conversations with me and Chris. And it was cool, man. I really, really enjoyed that.
Well, cool. I know that's something absolutely you'll go back and do if the opportunity presents itself, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Actually, this is my 2nd year in a row going to that school. But I've spoken to other places as well, too, so it's cool. It's cool. I like it a lot.
Well, absolutely. Well, again, man, you're going to be part of the Titan FC 37 live on UFC Fight Pass March 4th. Fans can get their tickets at cagetix.com/Titan. Dre, I know you're finishing up here in camp, so make sure you give a shout-out to your sponsors.
Yes, sir. You said make a shout-out to the sponsors?
Absolutely.
All right, I'd like to thank Crown, Meal Poster Restaurant, to Connect, Connect Clothing, Enterskin, boy, oh boy. Man, oh man, Next Level Auto Body, Best Paid Physical Therapy. That's all I can remember right now. I'm sorry for all the people I'm forgetting.
Oh, no worries. We know you get them taken care of, man. Look, we appreciate you taking out time because I know that, like I said, man, the rise in stardom, you're doing a lot more media, so we appreciate you taking the time, and best of luck here on March 4th.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Hopefully you guys tune in, watch this work we put in.
Absolutely. Again, UFC Fight Pass, March 4th, Titan FC 37, Andre the Bull Harrison. We appreciate you taking out time.
No problem, man. Have a great night.
You too. And again, you'll be able to see both these gentlemen square off for the featherweight championship here on March 4th on UFC Fight Pass. And if you're going to be in the Washington area, make sure that you get some tickets to go see that event live. Go to cagetix.com/Titan, as well as go to titanfc.com for additional event and ticket information. Now to close the show, I'm going to give my take here on Ronda Rousey. Now, Ronda Rousey made news this week for appearing on The Ellen Show while out promoting her cover issue of the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, to where she has on body paint. Womp womp. I'm going to play the audio here of Ronda, and then I will follow up from there.
What am I anymore if I'm not this? And I was literally sitting there and thinking about killing myself, and that exact second I'm like, I'm nothing. I'm like, what do I do anymore? And no one gives a shit about me anymore without this. And then, to be honest, I looked up and I saw my man, Travis, was standing there, and I was looking up at him, and I was just like, I need to have his babies. I need to stay alive.
Now, as you can hear Ronda speaking, if you were able to see the actual show, she was crying and what have you. And I got a lot of flack from people on social media because I made the comment of, anyone who's contemplating suicide or commit suicide is weak. And, people, kind of got their panties up in a bunch behind that. What I mean by that is this. If life is so tough to where you have to kill yourself or you're thinking about killing yourself, you're weak. It just is what it is. Life is supposed to be tough. It's how we deal with these obstacles that make us to the people we are. And for Ronda to make a comment that she kind of thought about killing herself because she lost a fight, that shows me that she's weak in the fight game. That means that this may not be built for her. And I said last year that I didn't see her fighting past 2015. I still firmly stand behind that. Now, a lot of people in sports and combat sports make comments in regards to her making these comments about losing and wanting to kill herself. Brock Lesnar says she's never learned how to lose. And you have to learn how to lose and how to deal with these things if you're going to be successful in sports, period. This is coming from a gentleman who was a college wrestler who lost wrestling matches, but learned from those and got better. Lost MMA fights, learned from those and got better. Lost pro wrestling fights, learned from those and got better. But you also had other athletes making comments about that she just needs to learn how to lose. And a lot of other comments were coming out about her not being really focused on fighting. You can't do movie roles and then go and train and then think you're going to be a top flight athlete. My take on Ronda is pretty much this. I don't see her fighting again. I don't see her as being this immaculate superstar that the UFC has built her out to be. Yes, she's done tremendous things for women's mixed martial arts. Without her, it wouldn't be in the position it is now. I will easily give her credit there. But in sports always evolves. It's going to be someone else who's going to top her. There's going to be someone else who helps take women's mixed martial arts to the next level. She helped get it somewhat established and take it to one level that Gina Carano had initially put it on. Ronda took it to that next step. And there's going to be somebody after Ronda who's going to take it to a step after that. So I think that she may want to kind of cool it a little bit in thinking the sport will need her down the line, because it really won't. It can pass her by. We're going to see that here in the coming weeks with Miesha Tate fighting Holly Holm for the championship. The sport will still go on. The sport will still thrive. And the only way that she's going to be able to thrive back in this sport is if she actually takes it seriously. You're not going to be able to do movie roles, then stop, do a 6-week camp, and be able to fight. You're not going to be able to use the same coaches who are telling you the same bullshit and not teaching you proper technique and think you're going to win a fight. You're only going to get so far with your talent before you need proper coaching. And right now she doesn't have that. She doesn't have the right people in her ear to telling her what steps she needs to take to continue to be great. So with that, I don't see Ronda Rousey fighting again. I don't really care if I see her fight again. And if she does fight again, I honestly hope it's against Chris Cyborg and not Holly Holm, because that's the fight we've been waiting for and would prefer to see a little bit over Holly Holm, because if she fights Holly Holm again, it's going to be the same result, possibly worse. Not saying that a fight with Chris Cyborg won't end in a horrific fashion either, but it's one of those things we've waited for long enough that it should happen. But right now the word is she may not be back until November. Notice that in November, that's the 11th month of 2016. That means the year will be close to being over again. Ronda Rousey's never going to fight again, folks, and I think that's something that we need to kind of learn and move on from, because it's a wrap. It's no more. But that's just my take on it, but we'll see. As always, make sure you visit punchtheface.com. Remember, it's punch2theface.com, as well as follow me on Twitter at punch_2theface. And as well, if you have any comments, questions, anything like that here that you want to air out here on the show, you're always welcome to email me at Brandon at punchtheface.com. Like I said, man, more stuff to come here next week. More interviews with some Titan FC fighters. As well, we'll be previewing and recapping some boxing that'll be going on here next week and then the week afterwards. So make sure you subscribe if you're not already subscribing here to the show. And also make sure on the main page you donate on that PayPal button. Hey, we always need cash. Straight cash, homie. Straight cash. So until next time, I appreciate you taking that time. This is another episode of Punch to the Face Radio.